Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy Road Dog here with the dancing queen himself, the man, the myth, the want to be Jordan Belfort because nobody's leaving, the king himself, King Karl Bryan. How you doing, Shades?
Yo, how you doing, Big Shoots? What's happening, bud?
Listen, one day I can only dream of learning your dance moves. Like, it's one thing to learn business from you, but that would be like next level. If only you did seminars on dancing and just satisfying a crowd's hunger for just your style of dance, that would be next level, bud.
Was it the moonwalk that impressed you the most? You want to be honest?
Well, you know, it's interesting. It's an interesting variation of the moonwalk. I've never seen it done in slow motion before. Like it was a sight to behold, folks. Karl Bryan.
I think we'll fill this in. I think we've lost we went over this in the pre-show, but I think that this needs. They're wondering what in the world is this guy talking about. I think
so we hosted a private event. We had a dozen local successful business owners out for a sort of a mastermind. At the same time, we were donating all the money to charity. So for all of those thinking, man, are people still like? Do people want to pay for events or to be a part of things? Well, we literally pulled this together in a couple of weeks and charged everybody $1,000 for just showing up for one night, and everyone's already pumped to go to the next one. So it was a fantastic evening. We raised some good money for obviously supporting our local pub, which is great because we know that they've obviously, you know, with the COVID and everything else, had their challenges, and at the same time, a portion of those proceeds going to mental health as well. And there you go. That was it was a open bar event, hence the dancing queen making an appearance that night.
Nobody's leaving.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that to me, that was the highlight. Just Karl going on a rampage, and then it's like, where'd Karl go? Oh, he left.
So anyway. Text message the next day, and I just send it over to Beaver's dad and a couple buds, and so nobody's leaving. Nobody's leaving.
By the way, the fact that the owner's granddaughter came back to get a picture with Beebs, that was amazing. Like, hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. So
I spoiled the photo, by the way, shoot. So just a little FYI there.
All right. Well, shall we get going into things that require no alcohol and or dancing and actual value? So why don't we do that? Because it seems our work ethic has taken a hard turn to the right here. So leading into the first question, and I think there's probably a lot of gold in here for all of us as coaches as well. But how do I help my coaching clients create a better work ethic?
Ooh. How do I help my coaching clients?
Or can I reframe a little bit? How can I get Karl to have a better workout ethic?
Okay, there we go. Oh, different direction. Yes. Well, so work. And by the way, I like this one. This is a good. If you like, what happens? You lose clients all the time, and it's just I can't keep up. I'm overwhelmed. I'm falling behind. It's just so ridiculously not only consistent but predictable. So to not combat this before you start would be a strategic error. It always makes me laugh. You know, I get that guy that he wants to coach. He wants to coach hundreds of business owners, but not actually speak to anybody. Right? And people say this to me. It happens often. It's like, oh my goodness. It's same guy that's reading the 4-hour work week. Actually, no, buying the 4-hour work week, reading the first few pages, the back, and then forgetting to read the book and assuming it's about 4 hours, right? Which is not, but a lifestyle. But anyway, so then, they read The Secret and want a big bag of money to fall on their head. you really, if that's your attitude, you really should be doing something different. Coaching is not for you. Coaching is about accountability. Coach is about, you don't get into this industry is for people who are passionate, right? And it's like becoming a parent. So become a parent. You become a parent. You become a parent to basically raise good children, and to kind of, put them first, if that makes sense. So, like thinking you're going to build this online course, charge $97, make millions of dollars, like just please. And yes, that of course has happened, but we don't do anomalies. We do percentages. So moving on, it's, work. The activity done during, well, let's define it, right? Like work is activity done, I think, towards what? The completion of a task. Would that be fair? I do know this. Ethic is a Greek word. The actual definition is the science of morals. So again, you put work ethic. I think by defining it, that's important, right? But a science of morals, it's a fancy way of saying, what is your standard of behavior? What do you deem acceptable and unacceptable behavior for you, right? Your standard, my standard, they're going to be different, right? Road dog standards. And that's why my work ethic's going to be different from yours. And we have two different definitions, and that's totally acceptable, right? But I don't know what you stand for. So therefore, I'm not going to be able to tell you what your work ethic is. But when I understand more about you, it's going to assist me in improving it. Okay. And that's what I think we're looking to do here. Just the question is, does it make the boat go faster? Right? Like, that's like a strategy question as you're applying. Like, what are you looking to work on? The old, we want to work smart versus hard. But the problem is that nobody's really working hard. So they use working smart as like a cheat, it's like the hack, the cutting in line. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I was on a boat recently, like very recently. And, my daughter's there. She's just turned 8 years old. And there's another girl who's 13. And one of them decides, like, they're, it's a little bit wavy and that sort of stuff. And she decides that she just wants to get off. And she runs straight to mommy. And basically it's only, we get the boat for 3 hours. And the trip is basically canceled because she's got to get off, and mommy decides that, look, she wants to get off. She's getting off. And this reasonably short tour this isn't in the ocean. We're not talking 3-foot waves. We're just talking, some waves. It's, the entire trip need to be halted. Is that the most ideal scenario? And maybe, she's going to throw up and we got to get her off. But that wasn't the case. And by the way, this would be no big deal on an isolated event, by any stretch of the imagination. The kid needs to get off a boat because they're not feeling well. It's getting off, right? But there's a body of work there where this is more than a trend. Whereas my daughter might have been like a little bit, dicey, but I've tried, and I'm not pretending to be the perfect parent here in any way, shape, or form, but I can tell you, when we talked about this in previous episodes, I like to help her become comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Like, so, I've got a Sea-Doo, and I love my Sea-Doo, and I take my daughter out on it, talked about this, but we go to the middle of the lake and she's got to jump in. She knows that's the rule, right? Well, sometimes she doesn't want to, but it's a bad example of getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. Having a cold shower every day, very, very powerful. We should all do it, right? But the bottom line is that it comes back to what's the ethic, what's the science of morals, right? My daughter is just, she's going to be a little bit more comfortable in that scenario. So what am I saying? This isn't about me. It's not about my daughter. It's not about our Sea-Doo trips or this flashy boat that we're on. It's about a standard within somebody. So you got a little red arrow, you are here. You need to get a bit of a sense as to where somebody's at. And I would encourage you to go to that little red arrow, like, what's their current standard? And help them be honest with themselves. And then understanding that if they were maybe coddled a little, might be a little harsh, by the way, but coddled a little too much as a kid, we're going to need to beat that down in order to improve this work ethic, and then I guess maybe, like, how do you do this? How do you do this with a business owner? Forget 8-year-olds and 13-year-olds and boat rides. How do we take somebody and stretch their sense of what's possible, or more to the point, stretch their ability to create something that they didn't think was possible? How do you do that? I don't know. One, I think operating like a pro sports athlete as a framework. If you're really honest with yourself, if your client is really honest with themselves, are they operating at like a Michael Jordan type standard, or are they more like the guy in the hot dog eating contest, right? Like, and then if they're more like the hot dog eating contest, and maybe it's you that's more like the hot dog eating contest caliber, it's not that it's okay, but it has to be. That's your current standard. And all you got to do is just improve a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit every day, right? Most definitely your energy levels. You got to eat right, sleep right, drink lots of water. Is your client doing that? Sounds so basic. Tony Robbins won't work with you unless you start working out. The end. I'd say another one. I think that's the two would be like consistent. My wife and daughter, if they can't find me between 6 a.m. and 5 p.m., like I'm not upstairs, they don't need to go and search the entire house. They come straight into my office and they know that that's where I'm going to be, right? Like I show up consistently. And your clients need to do this. You need to do this. You're having marriage problems? Show up. You got problems with your kids? Show up. You're feeling unwell? Show up. You didn't sleep well last night? Show up. We got a mutual buddy, Jonah Utah. We go out and have a couple beers every once in a while. And I'm always like, basically, I got to shut her down, right? It's Tuesday night. It's Thursday night. It doesn't matter what it is. And he literally, like clockwork, he goes, big day tomorrow, right? And he's saying it tongue in cheek. But the reason is that I'm sorry, I got a big day tomorrow. I got to go, right? He's like, every day is a big day. And quite frankly, that's, because my standard is such that I got to show up and that's a non-negotiable for me. I just can't be, I can't drink more than 2 beers and then feel like I'm going to be able to perform on a Wednesday morning. So therefore, guess what? I drag those beers out and have a Coke or a water in between so I can put in my shift and then it's bye-bye time. So the bottom line is completion of my work and completion of my goals. It's just a non-negotiable. That's my standard. And I would encourage you to explore that for yourself and your coaching clients. So you got that little red arrow, you are here and you're dealing with. I think another one I'd put in there is have spotters, right? Like Road Dogg and I work out on a weekly basis. And it's like, what's your spotter say to you? Like Road Dogg's always on me. Like he wants more weight on there. He wants me to do 2 more, 2 more, 2 more. My shoulder hates him. But at the end of the day, I go home and I feel better because I get those extra reps in, right? So are you surrounding yourself in business with people that are there going 2 more, 2 more, 2 more, right? Like we just opened up Greg earlier on the pre-show. We're just talking about events, and this is what he didn't book one event. He followed our advice, and what we advise is don't book one. Like you can book one event if you want. Most people don't even book one event, by the way. They work out if anybody's interested. But he didn't book one event. He booked 10 events, right? And to say that he's pumped and he's got a couple of ideas, and we just went through, some ways presumably to help what he was doing. But the bottom line is that it's a little bit 2 more, 2 more, 2 more, right? He literally at the end of it, we close him off. He goes, I'm jacked. I can't wait. I can't sleep. I'm so pumped about this, right? So are you surrounding yourself with people going 2 more, 2 more, 2 more? And the answer is probably not. And if you want to know, if you want to measure, do you? When you booked an event, did you book 10 or did you book 1? Or did you book none, right? Well, you need some spotters. You need somebody like Road Dogg with massive pipes basically going a little more weight and a couple more, right? And that's why we have built a community of top performing business coaches to complement all of our tools and, profit acceleration software and digital acceleration software. We got guys like Harvard Jim and NASA Jen. Jim got a Harvard degree and Jen worked at NASA as a marketing director. We got almost all the Dan Kennedy Marketing Hall of Famers work with us. Marshall Silver's a client. Uptake Marketing's a client. They're spotters. Everybody, like when you see these guys crushing it, kicking butt, taking names, it's hard not to stretch your sense of what's possible. So again, question is, does your client surround themselves with not just you pushing them? And then the other thing is that I don't need to be there with you if you've got a client who's a little bit maybe coddled, the one that was going to get off that boat. You're cautious to push them too much because you don't want to lose them as a client, right? I'll give you the red hot tip. Tony Robbins, if you don't allow him to push you, he just says, no, thank you. He's not interested. If you don't, and I say this earlier, if you don't work out, Tony Robbins won't coach you. That's it, right? There's a certain, because if you can't control your physical body, he's not going to be able to control your physical mind or help you control it. That's kind of the premise of it all. So, and it's going to give you more when you work out, you've got more energy. And if you're going to work with Tony Robbins and pay him $1 million a year plus upside to do, which is very hard. No doubt he's got a 5-year waiting list or whatever he says. Lord knows what, is exact and isn't, really doesn't matter. No doubt Tony Robbins has got some high end clients and some people that would love to work with them and put their name down. If you don't have a high level of energy, you're not going to be able to keep up. Goodbye. It's over. So what am I saying to you? Take that, screw that. Like push your client. No, when Road Dog pushes me, I say thank you in the end, right? My shoulder tells him to piss right off, but that's just the way it is, right? So again, do you have that? What else, Road Dog? Like prepare, right? Like look, before I have a conversation, right, I will write down what is the outcome of this call, or I would visit. I mean, I don't write it down every time, right? But before I pick up the phone, before I answer the call or I dial the numbers, I'm thinking, what is the outcome that I want this call to result in? And by the way, if I've got 30 minutes booked and I can get to the outcome in 7 minutes, 13 minutes, I hang up the phone and I just save myself 15 times. I'm not on the phone to make people feel good about themselves or, feel good about myself. I don't know, right? Like I'm not on the phone for 30 minutes because I booked 30 minutes. I'm on the call to get an outcome. I get the outcome and then I hang up the phone. It's over, right? Maybe that's making a sale. Maybe that's solving a problem. Maybe that's helping, like, whatever you could imagine, right? We're picking up the phone. People want to, like, somebody gets me on the phone. Here's what happens to me a lot. I'll end up on the phone and someone will set up an appointment. And when I don't do joint ventures, I don't do interviews. I'm just not interested. You build your company, I build mine. Okay. And high five, right? But they'll get me on the phone somehow with some other reason. And then all of a sudden I work out. So hang on, what's your goal? What do you want to happen? And then they tell me that, well, you promote, I wanted you to send out an email. And I go, respectfully, just go read one of my emails at the very bottom. I promote myself and my own company. The conversation's over, and then I go. Not in an arrogant, whatever way, even though they got me on the phone in a way that kind of annoys me. But I just hang up the phone. That dramatic example, but what's the outcome? Okay, solve his problem. Okay, his problem is unsolvable for me, so I got to go. And I just saved myself 21 minutes of the 30 and I move on and I don't go and do jumping. Well, I don't know. I don't go and do some lame activity. I get back to my computer. I get back to the phone. I get back to my, my spreadsheets. I get back to my whatever and I get to work. Right. So question. And another thing that I will do is, especially if I'm speaking to a heavyweight, right? When I'm speaking to somebody and they're going to help me solve my problem, and I know that impressing them, adding value to them will help me convince them to help me, if that makes sense, right? No doubt you guys get it. I will write down 5 things that I want to bring across on this call. Like, here's an example of a client that I helped, and this is the way I helped them. Like, let's say it's an accountant. Well, I will write down a way that I have helped an accountant, and I will intentionally, like a politician, no matter what we are talking about, I will go to that example and that story will have conflict, by the way, intentionally. And I've said this many a times, but I encourage you to steal it. Another thing as I do is I stand against. I don't sit there and talk about how fluffy the clouds are and how amazing it is and I can't wait and everybody's going to make so much money and imagine how great the world's going to be. I talk about things are doing, things that are going to go wrong. I talk about the mistakes that people are making, the mistakes that I have seen, the ones that I've overcome. So I stand against a little bit, which I think is really important. Bottom line is that I prepare, and do you? Who cares what I do? Who cares what Road Dog does? Does your client prepare before the call? And I'm sorry, I just don't need to meet your chiropractor to know that they don't prepare for they do not prepare. And they have a 30-minute appointment and then they spend 30 minutes in there doing the appointment. Because, again, the work fits the time allotted, right? You get it when you become outcome based, you'll totally change that. So I think preparedness would be in there. An urgency mindset. You want to help your client, move the needle. Just stop saying I'll do it later. Just do it. Perfection stops it from happening. Perfection is the lowest standard on earth. It just stops it from happening. Right. So again, work stretches the time allotted. Don't allow that to happen. When you're going on vacation, the Friday before you go away, you get more done. I don't need to be with you. We get more done on that day than you have in the entire week previously. You, me, Road Dog, everybody. Right. But just stop being so inefficient. Right. Like that's a little bit of a rabbit hole. But like, great. Actually, I sent this out. Actually, you know what? I didn't even send this out. I sent out some Steve Jobs kind of quotes about innovation and just, you get my daily emails. You might have seen it recently. And somebody actually replied. I can't remember who it was, so I apologize. Hopefully they're listening. But I said, I really like that. That was great. One of the other things that Steve Jobs said is great artists ship. So I sent that. So I sent that out separately in another email. But I was like, wow, that's what does he mean? Great artists ship. He means that you got to get your product into the hands of your ideal clients, right? Like otherwise you're just an artist not getting anywhere. Why do artists not make any money? Generally speaking, they've got that artsy fartsy kind of way about them, and that perfection. Like they can't let somebody leave their hands. A real operator, the guy who's not, that has a crushing work ethic, won't have that attitude. It's similar to Michael Jordan just taking the shot. No doubt you guys have all seen that quote where he's all the game missing, all the shots that he's missed and whatnot. He just thinking about that. Wayne Gretzky, you miss every shot that you didn't take, something to that effect. And then by doing it, Michael Jordan got better as his career went on. He got better and better and better in clutch situations. I guess again, what people don't realize is that Michael Jordan continued to improve, right? You want somebody to have a crushing work ethic. Here's a good one. Create, how do I get to word this? Like create events, right? So if you want to start jogging, book a half marathon for your client. Or again, the 5K walk, the 5K run, depending on, whatever the case may be, right? You want to look like a stud with your shirt off, go book yourself into a bodybuilding competition. Is that extreme? Yeah, totally extreme. Well, guess what? So will your training. Do something like, shoot for the moon and end up in the stars, right? Like I needed to get in shape one time and I booked Tough Mudder. I'm going to tell you how it worked out. I finished and I was done, but I did not. I sent my wife a message before I started, and she still talks about it. And I said, sure, glad I walked around the block because that was basically my training. But I rolled up, I did it, grateful that I did it. You know what? And I got through it, and this is what it is. That's not the best example, by the way. Don't do it the way I did it. I'm a donkey. But book the Tough Mudder and then do the training beforehand. Crush it. So forget that. These are like examples. I want you to take these and like use this as a framework. But it's what I talked about earlier with our client Greg. You want to get coaching clients? Go down to the local chamber, the yacht club, the golf course, and book an event. And personally, I wouldn't book one. I would do it way more extreme, like the bodybuilding competition, and I would book 10. Simple, right? People, most people, what do? They want to work out. If anybody, they go ask people if they're interested before they book the event, right? Like if there could be like the lowest level of I don't know, behavior. Like you're the guy or gal who's going to do that. Your confidence sucks. Like you can forget your event, right? You're going to suck presenting it because no way you got the confidence to really own that room, right? But all that being said, guess what? You got to go do your first event before you're going to be able to get to the 10th event and really own it and really crush it, right? But it's like Road Dog and I, we talked a little at the beginning. We made, over 10 grand for our local pub charity this weekend. We just booked it, just made it happen, right? Was it perfect? Was it scramble, frickin' scramble, frickin' scramble? You bet it was. When people left, did they just say, when are we doing the next one? And just automatically book me in? And by the way, I got a buddy who will absolutely be there. Like everybody, you know what I mean? Like I'd be amazed if like all of them didn't rebook. And it's just a matter of if, they don't have like a vacation or an event or they're away on the specific night, they'll be there. So, we're going to go from, 12? We're going to go to 15 automatically and probably have 20, which by the way, we don't have 20. It's going to make it more like room where we sat. We need a bigger area, or it's going to be more exclusive, all of which are going to be better. And by the way, we charged $1,000 for people to come, right? Will it work? Yeah. And by the way, if you were a business coach, like there are guys that are going to spend $1,000, to sit at a specific table. And mastermind. It wasn't even, and masterminding. Look, there was a bit of that, and that was definitely the highlight. That's what the guy said afterwards. But it was just getting to know each other. And there's already Road Dog. You said to me, I remember like 7 minutes into it, you're like, a business deal just went down right here, right? Just organically, and that's what's going to happen, and that's why they're going to come back. Anyways, so we made 10 grand on the weekend for the local pub and a charity, and we did it not by thinking about it, talking about it. Our real artists ship. We just made the event happen and did it. Okay, look, I got to say this one, like, you got to not fall for working smart. Like, I get it. Of course, you got to work smart. It's just, I get asked all the time. I say this, like, if you want to build a company, like, you need to systematize it, right? But what I'll say is that systems stifle creativity. Okay. So I get asked, like, pretty, common for me to get somebody on the phone and they want to ask me my understanding of the systems thing, because as far as they know, I've got a very systematized business. There's no question about it. So it's like, what's the balance? Well, if you're hiring 16-year-olds, systematize away. What I do, and I don't know if you want to follow this roadmap, but remember my saying, your greatest successes will always come through other people. I hire really, really talented people, give them a project, a problem, and then say, solve it and leave them alone, right? And of course, then they bring back like a system. But that's an example. If you are too systematized, you will lose good talent. The end, mic drop, on steroids, conversation over, done, right? So don't let that happen. Um, okay. So you get the working smart versus working hard. I guess I got to follow that up. Like, get like work really hard, and then we can get smart. Like Michael Jordan got better at hitting the shot, a little smarter, a little smarter, a little smarter. But the hard work thing, I think, is where most people let them down. Let's face it. So I think that they use the working smart as a cop out, right? As like a, like passing the buck, whatever, however you want to word that. Look, eliminate distraction. Look, rather than focus, you got to eliminate distractions, right? You cut the fat, right? Like an example, the top of my head, I would give you, like, when multiple street, you got a business to build, and then you're checking out Bitcoin, right? You got a business to build, and you're looking for a foreclosed house locally to you, right? I'll let you decide. Does it make the boat go faster? The answer is your piece of real estate. No. And so multiple streams of income. This is another one I get asked about all the time. In fact, we talked about this, Road Dog, in the mastermind, and of course had to field some questions about it. Like, what the heck are you talking about? Some guys in real estate and whatnot there. And I'm just explaining that I'm sorry. And I know that's maybe not what you want to hear, but confuse, like, and once you hit my rule, hit $5 million and then talk to me about the other stream of income, right? And rewarding yourself without doubt. So many people you never take the time to give yourself the trophy. Be careful. A trophy will lead to a trophy. Very recently, a guy named Conor McGregor, who you might have heard of. In fact, I sent an email about this. You got to go, like, reward yourself, of course, but then careful here. You reward yourself too much, and I'll let you decide if Conor McGregor, maybe, with his fur coats and his, donkey-like, what appears to be donkey-like behavior. I'll let you decide. He's gone away from his thing. Let's put it that way. And he's getting his butt kicked left, right, and center. There's a reason why, right? So I guess maybe this needs to be two. But you got to reward yourself, and you got to take some wins. But then you can't give yourself too many trophies and too many accolades. But clearly, if we're listening to this, we're probably not Conor McGregor's level, if you know what I mean, right? But basically rewarding yourself and then making sure, like, a trophy often leads to a trophy, and you don't want that to happen either. So and last one, Road Dog, I think we talked about this maybe even the last one, but I get a lot of positive feedback about it, like a lot. And I got to say that I agree. Like, I like it. If you want to crush it, like, it's like self-sabotage needs to be worked into everything I just said, right? That's an overarching challenge of what ends up happening, right? You've got to get comfortable with distance. Okay. Pro athletes are just selfish individuals. Afternoon naps, the travel, always training, away from home for months of the year. It's if you're a professional athlete, you're a selfish individual. The end, mic drop. Nothing else to talk about there, right? So if you make 7 figures as a business coach, you're going to need to accept a little bit of that. You're going to need a little bit of selfish behavior. The end, you're going to need to have a team, like your wife, your family, your kids, that are going to support that. And if they don't, you're going to be challenged to hit 7 figures, and definitely multiple 7 figures to get there. But in sum, and importantly, distance. So as you become more successful, like a good example is I'm playing hockey, and then I make the travel team kind of thing. So we're playing a game in a hometown, and I'm on the rink. So the guys are on the rink playing, and then their friends are in the stands watching. You're in the same building. You're literally 5, 10 feet away, maybe 20 feet away from one another, but one's playing and one's watching. That's distance, right? When you make a lot of money and you move into a new community, All of a sudden, that's, bigger house, pool, hot tub, this, that, the other, view, whatever, maybe it's oceanfront, maybe it's lakefront. That becomes distance. You live 15 minutes from your friend, but there's a massive distance. It's not 15 minutes. It's like two different lives, right? You fly first class. You're on the same plane, but there's a massive distance between the front of the plane and the back of the bus. And you have to be comfortable. And if you're not, and you will lose love. When you make lots of money and you're super successful, you have less friends, not more friends. That's the way it goes down. That's the, like it, lump it, whatever. I just tell you, that's what's going to happen, right? So what happens is you don't like that. You lose love, which is one of your worst nightmares. So therefore you self-sabotage to come back, and then you get love back and go, oh, awesome, right? Can't let that. If you're not comfortable with distance, you're not going to crush it, right? Greg, who's doing 10 events, at the end of 10 events, believe me, he's going to be that totally, the people that are going to be, like what ends up happening, you have 10 events. I used to have people used to just go to all of my events, right? I'm like, why are you here again, right? Call them seminar junkies, just follow me around. I'm like, have you noticed that I tell the same stupid jokes at the exact same time and I use the same examples? Like, what is it? But they're there, they're trying to get clients, they're doing this, they find me funny, whatever. I don't know, right? Greg does a crushing job. He's going to have the exact same thing in event number 11. He's going to have some of the same faces just because they want to hear it again. Tony Robbins, people go to his events for literally, years and years and years. So whatever, but that distance again, you come to my event and I'm there speaking, we're in the same room, but the distance, if somebody's speaking and you're in the same room, you're literally a few feet from one another, but there's massive distance there. You're going to need to get comfortable with that. Your client's going to need to get comfortable with that. Road Dog, what's important there is because your work ethic needs to improve, but then it's got to improve, and then it's got to improve. You got to continue to push the envelope, right? Like what got you here won't get you there. So in order to take work ethic up, not one, but 5, and then, tenfold, they're going to create some distance. There you go, Shoots. I don't know. What do you think, Ben? That's what I think.
I think that's quite the rabbit hole you just walked down. And I don't think we've ever had a podcast with one single question leading the entire podcast, but here we are. Listen, a couple things for me, and I'm curious, right? Because I'm going to get you to close out after my 2 cents here. Urgency mindset, because you had like over 10 different things there, but I like the urgency mindset. I think that's really cool. But the other one that really got me is don't think of time for getting the result. Think of the result, and likely it'll take less time. That's the notes that I wrote down. It's like you go on, just because you block 60 minutes to do a project, a closing call, whatever it is, it doesn't mean that it has to take 60 minutes, right? Like that's the crazy part. And there is that, we talked about it before. It's like you always seem to get more done knowing you're about to go on vacation because you've only got so much time to get it done, because it creates that, I guess, urgency of sorts. But if you had to pick one thing out of that, Karl, like what would you say? Maybe it's different for everybody, but for you, like what do you think is the most important one thing out of that creates, I guess, a better work ethic for you?
That's a good one, Road Dog. I think I like spotters. Like I said, you and I were lifting weights. You're pushing.
Let's not get carried away. One of us is lifting weights there, Shoots. Like, let's not get carried away.
All right. No, but so yeah, like your greatest successes come through other people. Again, that Road Dog. That's what all the folks they paid $1,000 to come and sit at that table on Saturday night there. We talked about that. And again, you saw like there's a lot of like deeper, let's talk about that. Because most people are just ripping around trying to be a one-man band, right? Like, so your greatest successes come through other people, right? So that's the gal I go to the chamber. Like I like to cut in line, right? Like, so I go to the chamber without being a dickhead, right? But I grew up, my dad is a professional gambler. He'd disappear for literally, a couple days at a time, playing poker, right? Because he got behind and he would love to come home. Believe me, he wanted to come home. He's tired. But he was, chasing whatever the heck's happening. But so I think that's important to understand, that that's a framework that I grew up with. So cutting in line, I mean, my dad, like I was growing up, we sit at the table, he would, get up like he's going to the bathroom. Really what he's doing is hunting down the waiter, hands him whatever it was, a 50, a C note. And he says, look, that's my family. Can you do me a favor? I'm going to tip you well, look after them. We would get like unbelievable. And yeah, you just over, you know what I mean? That's the way you do it. That's what I saw. That's what I grew up with. So I go to the chamber and I'm like, who's running the show? And believe me, that's not the chairman of the board. That's the girl selling the memberships and controlling the events and controlling the speakers. Who's that? Right. Well, I pay her. Right. Like, and I find a way to do it ethically and so that it's not weird. Right. What is that? I don't know. I have to get to know her. I got to build a relationship. And then I go, oh, look, this is what I can look, you know, I'll let your mind and by the way, some people hear me say this and I've read the emails and everything, and they totally disagree. And that's cool. But you're playing life with a rule book written by conformists that they want to keep you behind, to be clear. Right. So again, my wife, like an example, I seldom pay for, I think we've talked about this. I don't like paying for parking. Right. It's not that I don't want to pay for parking. It's that if I wait in line for 10 minutes, walk there, walk back, get the stupid ticket, put it on my dashboard. If I pay myself, $1,000 an hour, right? Like how much time does it, if it takes me extra 10 minutes, I'm like, I'll just pay the ticket's cheaper. Right. And by the way, and I don't even get a ticket most of the time. So then I just come back and go. And I know somebody's listening to that going, what a dickhead. That's fine. But I just encourage you to be thinking, like, push yourself, have spotters, like, have people around you. They're going to help you. So a spotter, your greatest successes come through other people. Okay. I believe that to be a little bit of spotter. So when I go to the chamber, I find out who's calling the shots and I find a way to pay them. I go to the local newspaper, the magazine, the radio station. I go, who's running the show with the business owners? That's going to be the top performing sales guy that's selling a lot of ads and performing at a high level. I find him, I build a relationship, and I find a way to pay him that makes sense. I just cut in line. He can imagine how many people he's got. 500 clients over the last 3 years, right? And they take his emails and they take his calls and they trust him and they know him. This guy can help me. I go to the accountant. Again, I find a way to pay him. So I don't know. So spotters combined with your greatest successes come through other people. So I think I'm kind of combining something there. But people, who are the people around you? Actually, here's what my mentor did for me recently. This might be good. He drew a circle. He goes, Karl. And he goes, give me your values, right? So, you got family and success. I got my values around the outside. So picture a big circle and then say there's 10 lines and I've got 10 values that are smaller circles. Okay, well, connected to each of those values, he goes, how many people in your life demonstrate those values, right? So let's go family. How many, like Road Dogg is you go to follow him on, he's a great family man, right? Well, again, so a family, Road Dogg's straight in there. Right? Like, so what values do you have? And then what people are you hanging around with those values? I think you're going to find I've got a saying that I've said for a long time, but if you introduce me to a married guy who hangs out with single guys, I'm going to introduce you to a guy who's going to be single soon. Right? This is the way it is. Right? And the woman, the exact same. She starts hanging out with the single gals, going to the club. There's a marriage about to come to an end. So, who are you hanging out? That was a very powerful exercise. And I think that you'll find when you do that with yourself or for your clients, you'll be pretty disappointed with the people, like the lack of people that demonstrate your values that you're spending an enormous amount of time with. So that's all part of it, right? Like if you're a business coach, how many business coaches are you in, clear and, daily kind of proximity to, who are out there crushing it and they're trying to push you to crush it, right? And that's conveniently, that's my top performing, private community of business coaches. That's what they're doing. I opened up Greg earlier. We talked about it. He didn't book one event. He booked 10 events. I'm like, guys, A, are you listening? And then B, are you going to be his fan and continue to accept distance? Or are you going to go, hey, that guy just pushed me and I'm going to go book 10. By the way, guess what, Greg? I'm going to book 12 and then I'm going to book 12. I'm going to one up you. And you know what Greg's going to do? Because I know his personality. He's going to go book 15, right? And whether that's the right now. But by the way, let's not get too excited about booking because there's no outcome. There's no result. So we got to go from booking to done. But there you go, Shoots. We got to get going, I guess. But that's my
love that. And by the way, when you're saying make that list, make sure that list is of achievers, right? You don't want to be commiserating with a group of people that never actually get anything done, that just like to whine and complain. that would be, that's just like you're the married guy going out with a bunch of single dudes and just, yeah. Anyways, so there you go. On that note, thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the man on top of the hill, the King Karl himself. And if you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, or just want more information on how to build your coaching company, visit focused.com and subscribe today. And again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a friend or a fellow coach or someone you think might make a great coach. And of course, as always, we'd appreciate it if you'd rate this episode, as we know that iTunes, Spotify, and the like give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So please leave us a review. And that is it for another week. A record has been set. One single question, one large rabbit hole. Until the next time, remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.